Sometimes for long months they have been receding. The most difficult period for Ossetians was between 1989 and 1992. Indeed, such cruelty towards the Ossetians could be found in almost all Georgian villages. However, Eredvi is probably the most terrible village. It was in Eredvi that in 1991 a whole bus of passing Ossetians were buried. They were forced out of the bus and then buried alive. They were basically all elderly people. There were several young people, but mostly they were elderly. And it was long after that that they themselves had been telling others about the moving ground. For them, this is already a nationalistic pathology. That is, for them, it was a kind of victory celebration or a demonstration of their power to bury a living person and not to repent. Constant provocations and attacks on the Ossetians have made the situation in the Caucasus region very hair-trigger. In words of Al Capone, a kind word and a gun can help you achieve much more than just a kind word. Georgia made sure that a gun only does not bring the desired results. Therefore, in 2006, a plan for the diplomatic capture of Tshinval was launched. This implied bribing the Ossetians, promising them a bright future, and using other kind but hollow words. Once the Ossetians had chosen and unfavored by the Georgian president Edward Kokoity, a so-called alternative presidential election of the unrecognized Republic of South Ossetia was held in the village of Kurta. As a result of this election, former defense minister of South Ossetia, Dmitry Sanakoyev, was elected as the alternative president. The Ossetians explained that Sanakoyev went over to the Georgians for money to pay for the debts he incurred because of a heavy addiction to gambling. Sanakoyev launched a bribing campaign among the residents of Ossetia. For this purpose, cinemas and swimming pools were built in several villages, and new housing was offered for those swearing loyalty to the new pro-Georgian authorities. The construction of a new housing complex in Haiti was completed today, and I'm proud to report that we have decided to give the apartments in this house to those most desperately in need of housing. These are 30 families that have recently voluntarily agreed to leave Tshinval and settle here on the territory controlled by the legitimate authorities. However, the number of those who believed Sanakoyev's promises proved insufficient to peacefully seize the power in the Republic. The Ossetians themselves believe they have two presidents, Edward Kokoity and the Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev. The fact is that the majority of Ossetians have Russian passports. As for Dmitry Sanakoyev, the residents of the Republic consider him nothing but a traitor. When the attempt to form a fifth column failed, Georgia decided to proceed with the clean field plan. South Ossetia was meant to be devastated by clear-up operations. Its residents were supposed to bury their dead, and the team of Dmitry Sanakoyev was intended to take over the major offices and pass the wayward republic under control of Mikhail Saakashvili. At present, Tshinval is still unable to answer the most important question. When will a normal, happy, peaceful life begin? A life without duties in trenches, without night shooting, without fear of traveling outside the city. We know the answer to this question. We are building a peaceful Ossetia and a strong Georgia. The prosecutor's office of South Ossetia found a number of trucks filled with uniforms of the new Sanakoyev administration. Apparently, the regime of Saakashvili was so confident of the success of the blitzkrieg in South Ossetia that they even took the trouble to provide for a neat and tidy look of the new pro-Georgian administration of a devastated Tshinval. Moreover, special new emblems were designed for special task forces of the new administration, those of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and of the Center Anti-Terrorist Units. The Ossetian Prosecutor's Office believes that the so-called Center of Anti-Terrorist Units of the Dmitry Sanakoyev's administration are directly responsible for the organization of terrorist acts. A detailed analysis of all the documents suggests that essentially it was not an anti-terrorist organization, but rather a terrorist one. We have their manuals. It's enough to look at what they were taught, laying mines and demolition works. There is enough material proving that they were taught to carry out terrorist acts of sabotage, taught how to behave during mopping up operations. Here you are. This is an instruction manual describing how a team should behave during an urban mopping up operation. A number of terrorist attacks took place in South Ossetia on the 3rd of July and on the 1st of August. The chief of the local village police office, Demenis Nodar Bibilov, was blown up in his house. Several civilians were killed. I would like to show you a report for the Minister of Internal Affairs of South Ossetia, Karkusov, from the head of the Anti-Terrorist Center, Captain Tsertsevadze. It reads as follows: for the courage and dedication in discharging his functions during the events of July 3rd and August the 1st, 2008, toward the officer of CAT of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of South Ossetia, Chief of the 3rd Police Division, Lieutenant Tsitsiloshvili, with a bravery medal. Here is his personal album. He has been somewhere in Kosovo. He has been even to the Pankisi Gorge, visited the Kodori Gorge. Here he is in Kosovo as part of KFOR. Here he is with German instructors, graduates from a NATO school. This is why people are sent here, into the counter-terrorist group. This means that, in fact, the President of Georgia, the Georgian authorities, decorate their officers with government awards for murdering innocent civilians. Plans of new terrorist attacks were also discovered by the Ossetian prosecutor's officers in the vaults of the so-called Anti-Terroristic Center, CAT. Sanakoyev's officers filmed the supports of the gallery leading to the Rocky Tunnel. Judging by the thorough attention they paid to each detail, soldiers of the alternative president planned to blow up this gallery. If this had happened, the road between Russia and South Ossetia would have been blocked, and Russian troops would have been unable to come to the aid of the Ossetians and Russian peacekeepers. For some reason, this attack failed, as well as a bacteriological attack on Tsinval that was to be implemented prior to the Georgian attack. A plan called Sushakuri was found in the safe of the members of the counter-terrorist center. In Georgian, Sochukari means a gift. This cynical gift to the residents of Tsinval implied poisoning the city's water supplies with typhoid bacteria and was meant to prevent the population from resisting the aggressor. There is the main water pipeline coming to the city. There are storage pools to accumulate water. Then it flows to the city. The task was to poison these pools. And what is more, nobody was allowed to approach the springs in the city by such a fire barrier. When they did not succeed